Hi everyone, what's the wrong Tano here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of this new Olivia Rodrigo album, You Seem Pretty Sad for a Girl So in Love. Yes, latest album from California pop singer and songwriter Miss Olivia Rodrigo, who is now on album 3 after seeing breakout and growing success off of her first 2 albums, Sour and Guts. Records that were deceptively simple combinations of dramatic ballads, pop rock, and a little bit of pop punk too, but still packed an emotional punch and thoughtful songwriting. And it seems with this new record, Olivia is complicating things even more. Not just with a title that I know I am going to say incorrectly a bunch of times if I am not careful, but also a track list that tells the story of a relationship that runs its course from those initial points of infatuation to Olivia realizing things aren't mutual, aren't really working out, and also that she deserves better. Now, from what I've gathered, it seems like this final result wasn't necessarily mapped out to begin with on this record, but we really just kind of ended up here through some really smart sequencing and reading the tea leaves in the songs as they were being written and developed. So in a way that does kind of put You Seem Pretty Sad in the concept album category if you want to use the C word, but at the very least, the album tells a story, more of a story than her past 2 records, certainly. And the super dense and lush instrumentation all over this album contributes to that quality too, as obviously kudos are owed to Olivia's longtime collaborator and producer Dan Nigro, who really helps make some key points of this album sound so fantastical and storybook. Take the opening track Drop Dead, for example, which is a punchy pop tune with kind of a synthy new wave undercurrent to it. Some talk-sung bits that also kind of feel like a Dan Nigro calling card at this point, given how these same sorts of things pop up on like many a Chappell Roan song. But the driving guitars and bright vocal harmonies and of course whimsical string touches make it feel so specifically Olivia and specifically this album. And Olivia's lyrics add to this world of wonder feeling the album kicks off with, making comparisons of her significant other to that of an angel on the wall of Versailles, but then also peppering in signs of chaotic emotions and unhinged behavior like a little bit of internet stalking and throwing up, just to bring in some elements of humor and grit. Many of these same amazing qualities carry over onto the following Stupid song, which at its core is a piano ballad with plenty of classic Olivia-isms that certainly you will remember from tracks like Vampire and Driver's License. Of course, once again, we get those powerful, expressive lead vocals, but what kind of brings this song here to a new level is that Olivia and Dan really produced the hell out of it with these awesome, visceral, danceable drum passages that kind of have this killer's Mr. Brightside momentum to them, and an instrumental palette that is always introducing something new, some different layer, a new level of volume with each passing chord. And I also love how repeatedly all of it kind of drops out underneath Olivia as she sings the line any stupid song could ever say, only for it to build up once again and again and again until we reach the final most powerful crescendo of them all, where Olivia's clearly improved vocal chops pay off heavily. It's really an amazing roller coaster of a track and one of the most finely and interestingly assembled pop songs we are going to hear in 2026. But this record is not just simply an exercise in density and pop maximalism, because versatility as well as Olivia and Dan giving nods to some of their most important musical touchstones too are pretty important on this record. Following this we have Honeybee, which is a pretty radical change up given that it's really just a stripped back piano ballad. I'll say personally, I'm not completely crazy about how the pacing of the song kind of offsets the momentum of the record itself, but I still do like the songwriting and the gorgeous strings, as well as the wintry vocal harmonies that are worked in. Plus, this track does add lyrically to the record, kind of planting these seeds of doubt that will show up later in the track list, because who doesn't love a little foreshadowing? By comparison, Maggots for Brains is a little bit more of a thrill, with some Some very clear The Cure and new wave influences coming through on the beat, as well as those kind of like ghostly, twangy guitar leads. And while this track's about being in love too, it's also very much about those romantic withdrawals that Olivia is feeling during moments when she can't be around this person. Feeling like a zombie, having maggots for brains. It's a bittersweet center at the core of what otherwise just kind of sounds like this really captivating, idyllic pop tune. You Plus Me is another throwback moment on the record, kind of a light, fluffy rock tune with a jangle pop twist to it given some of the sparkly guitar layers, as well as Olivia's vocal lines, which see her like really holding on to each note at the end of each line. Now, the middle section of the record is where things begin to get turbulent. My Way is the closest Olivia and Dan really get to making a gruffer, rougher rock song on this record. If any song on this LP is going to open up the pit, it's probably going to be this one. Definitely a fuzzy, distorted veneer to it, some blown out drums too. And the track is all about this confrontation she's having with an ex that is still obsessed with her partner, stepping in to remind her that she lost and sort of tell her off. And while I think some can most definitely listen to this track and kind of take it for what it is in terms of messaging on the surface, there are layers to it, because I do think Olivia and Dan are trying to continue depicting different shades of this crush here, showing that Olivia's emotions are putting her in a place where this insane jealousy and perception of romantic threats, competition, is kind of driving her mad. I have to say, I think the song Purple is maybe my least favorite on the album. Stylistically, it just feels like a very vague middle ground between some fuzzy bedroom pop and indie-tronica. Not quite fully sure where it wants to land. I think it's got the least memorable tune on the entire LP as well. And even this kind of lyrical messaging around one person being blue, one person being red, that kind of forming a purple vision. This is the sort of thing that has been explored in pop songwriting before, and Olivia's take on it isn't exactly blowing me away. I do think this track adds to the overall narrative of the album in terms of like continuing to cast doubt, sure, but that's something the following track, The Cure, kind of already does better, which I'll say again was an incredible single. Sounds amazing in the track list too. Loving the mix of riffs and vibes that are clearly making nods toward Foo Fighters, Smashing Pumpkins, Elliott Smith. The driving alt-rock guitars and building strings and soaring vocals on the back end of the track are powerful. It's great that Olivia and Dan didn't blow off all of their fireworks on Stupid Song. And I love how lyrically Olivia dives further into her insecurities and fears on this one too, as well as her overthinking kind of getting the better of her. The realization too that there's maybe some kind of dependency going on here that isn't necessarily healthy. Now, pretty much all the tracks in the final section of this record are spent working through the difficult realization that Olivia is giving more than she's getting in this dynamic, whether it's on Begged, which is this kind of eerie, beautiful, finger-picked acoustic number with a heart-wrenching vocal performance. I love that Olivia continues to have like that musical theater kid inside her ready to pull on your heartstrings when needed, but doesn't lean into it so aggressively that it takes away from this track's power as a pop song predominantly. I also love the storytelling at this moment of the record where things have kind of settled into this quiet sadness where you're kind of like quietly accepting way less than you should. There's also What's Wrong With Me featuring Robert Smith, a track that I do have some mixed feelings on. I mean, for one, I love the melody, I love the songwriting, I love Robert and Olivia's vocal chemistry. I just wish the production didn't feel so stale and hollow in a way, especially at the start with that super muddy snare that's slathered in this kind of small shower stall echo. Maybe the drum production could have been inspired by earlier, more sort of like dark wave era Cure records, but if that was the reference point, I think the whole thing could have been made to sound more interesting. Still, again, the qualities that I like about this track more than make up for this, and I am left at least a little choked up every single time they sing the chorus together on this one. With Less, we get yet another piano ballad, but honestly, Olivia and Dan saved the best one for last, as this one has a very slow, patient, almost kind of jazzy twist to it. The singing and storytelling is laid out so poetically and so bare that you feel every single line, and it's just clear on this one how Olivia has really graduated in terms of being able to channel a higher level of emotions in her vocal performance. The desperation in her voice as she describes, being loved so much she's being let go of, and wanting to be loved less as a result. Thankfully, the mood and the vibes get picked up on the next track, Expectations, which has a sort of LCD sound system I can change type arrangement to it. Just some buzzing synth pop with an almost Buggles level campiness to it that I like. And narratively, lyrically, the confidence is back on this one. The personal standards have been raised to a new level. The production is groovy. The lyrical jabs that are in there are greatly appreciated. The sense of humor is coming through, and the metamorphosis is complete. It's a really kind of happy ending of sorts, even if we are alone at this point, because at least we're loving and appreciating ourselves. Now, in a lot of ways, I feel like Olivia could have really left things off here, but we actually move into a very sad epilogue of sorts on Cigarette Smoke. Somehow another powerful ballad in this track list where she is very much going over the regret and the lingering, bitter, sad feelings that are left after all of this. Because even if there was like an element of learning and growth to this whole experience and process, clearly for Olivia, there are still some feelings saying, hey, this was like a bit of a waste and I prefer to have just not gone through it entirely, frankly. And I can't really blame her, honestly. And I love how lyrically we're getting like some references and calls back to, you know, elements earlier on the album, like Honeybee. It just kind of goes to show how much of a, you know, macro picture approach her and Dan were taking to this album once they kind of had all of their ducks in a row in terms of the songs. Look, overall, I love this record. It's Olivia's best, and, you know, I'm not going to say by a mile or anything like that, because Guts and Sour were not pop records to sneeze at, for sure. I know there are a lot of critics and music commentators right now and fans who are celebrating the success of this record and the quality that it's brought to the table. But as good as this record is, I feel like it's really just a series of confirmations of like what we already knew. Olivia has been a talented songwriter. Her and Dan Nigro have already proven themselves to like be a great team. I feel like if You Seem Pretty Sad is doing anything, it's really upping the ante on everything. On the instrumentation, on the emotional performances, on the thoughtful production and arrangements, while also bringing in a storytelling element to boot, and also employing a lot of tasteful nods toward some of Olivia's and Dan's biggest influences. I think if there's anything holding this record back, it's that it maybe is a little bloated with a few songs not adding that much to the overall narrative, in my opinion. And sometimes they're, you know, simplified pop interpretations of some of these old alternative trends in music do come across maybe slightly pedestrian, like not quite as potent as the real thing, but it's certainly close enough and still works as like an earnest homage. And frankly is more interesting than many of the pop punk vibes that were being embraced on past records, frankly. You know, while I may not enjoy any of the Cure-inspired sounds on this record more than I do on like a literal Cure record itself, this is something I could easily see Olivia and Dan working on more on future projects and just incorporating greater influences as they both mature as songwriters, producers. Olivia really showed out on this one though. Great record, killer album. I'm feeling a strong 8 to a light 9 on it. Transition, have you given this album a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best, you're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like. Please subscribe, please don't cry. Hit the bell as well. Over here next to my head, it's another video you can check out. Hit that up or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, Olivia Rodrigo, forever.